Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host for tonight. My name is Nak, and joined as always by my beautiful colleagues Raj and a return of Fab. Welcome back, Fab. We missed you, buddy.
What's up? Yeah, it's been an interesting month to say the least. So I do apologize to all of our very dedicated listeners who were hopefully wondering where I was, and if you weren't, come on, man,
Yeah, I
come on,
got I
guys.
got a few messages on my side. And
I
where's
appreciate
Fab? Where's
that. I
Fab?
appreciate
So
that.
everyone, I'm sure everyone is just as happy as we are that you are back with us.
Yes,
Um,
we are back. We
we
are
are
back.
back.
We are getting Fab back. No, I'm already back.
Forever.
And we're the three
Like
best
Shad Khan
friends that
said,
everyone will
forever.
have. We're the three best friends.
In today's episode, we're going to be breaking down the players you must start and the ones are better, you're better to fade. So basically, we're going to go through 2QBs that we love, 2QBs that we hate, and so on and so forth with the wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends. And just one little thing before we get started here. I know every year it happens the same way. Everyone overreacts after week one. Everyone freaks out over the waiver wire. Although this week it wasn't so much. This year, I don't think it was that crazy on the waiver wire. There was not that one player that commanded like that $50 fab. But um, there's always going to be those players that stand out week one, and everyone overreacts, and there's a bunch of shuffling of your teams. Play your studs. Keep your studs in your lineup. You drafted them for a reason. Perfect example last year after week one, Joe Mixon was RB2, Jordan Mason was RB5. Players like Jaden Reed, Cooper Cup were in the top five for wide receivers last year. So I would not overreact. If you drafted Jamar Chase and he didn't do too great for you this week, there's no reason to bench Jamar Chase in week two or start looking for trades. I would just keep it going. Don't overreact week one. That's our biggest takeaway. That's from week one.
And is it just me, or we're like the score is really, really low? Like it wasn't. I got,
Unders were 12-4 last week.
So that's a big thing that I don't think everyone's really taking into consideration. Like I know we play on Yahoo and everyone has their points projections, and even I was saying this too during the week. It's like, okay, maybe the projection is just really, really high, but everyone missed on their projections, and only a handful of teams in our league, I think two, actually beat out their projections for the week, which, like exactly what you said, Nak, like the unders played last week. So hopefully there's going to be a regression to the mean this week, like scores are going to be up, which are obviously going to equate to more fantasy points. But yeah, definitely be careful on overreacting. But hey, if somebody in our league wants to drop Jamar Chase, go for it. I'm not going to stop you.
The defense always is ahead of the offense.
Yeah.
Right after training camp, within
Good point.
preseason, it's very normal.
Yeah, it's always like this. First game jitters too. It's to be expected, but player studs, don't keep them in the lineup.
Don't get cute.
Don't get cute. So whether you're 1-0 or looking to keep rolling, or 0-1, should I say, and desperate for a bounce back, we've definitely got you covered. And let's dive right in. But before we do, let's just go over quickly our picks from last week. Did not get off to a hot start. Me and Roger collectively went 4-6 for the week. I went 3-3, hitting on Baker Mayfield, Ricky Purcell, and DK Metcalf. I lost with Trevor Lawrence as a love and Justin Fields and JJ McCarthy as a hate, and those were big time misses on those ones.
You look good on
Rod,
McCarthy for like 3 quarters.
yeah, I know. I was like, oh, that one was in the bag. Went to sleep, and I was cooking. But no, that definitely did not work out. You lost both your loves in Tank Bigsby and
God.
David Njoku, and also your hates, your buddy Kyle Pitts. Put up
There's
almost 13 fantasy points, and Omarion Hampton was shy of 10 points. So hoping to bounce back here in week two. Rod, you're shaking your head there, but I'll give you a chance to redeem yourself. Why don't you start us off with some QBs that you love this week?
I'm feeling good and feeling great about my love and hates this week. First QB that I love, Jared Goff. Consensus ranked QB 18 in week 2. So revenge game. He's at home versus Ben Johnson and the Bears, so obviously a lot of familiarity on that front. He had 5 touchdowns, 550 yards, and 120 QB rating in both games versus Chicago last year. Again, he faces his old coordinator, so I think there's going to be some aspects about that defense or that offense. They're going to know. They're going to know what's coming up. They're going to know how to play each other a little bit. The offense stank against the Packers, but he still completed 31 of 39 passes, 1 TD, 1 INT. Just couldn't push the ball down the field, and they did obviously lose those 2 impact offensive linemen last year or this year in Kevin Zeitler and Frank Ragnow. The Bears don't have a Micah Parsons in the backfield. I don't think their defense is as good as the Packers, and I'm willing to give Goff the benefit of the doubt against the Bears D that basically choked against rookie JJ McCarthy, and I trust those group of skill players way more to bounce back.
I like it. You're not going to keep Detroit's offense down 2 weeks in a row, I feel. What about your second QB?
Fab, what do you think?
I'm not convinced.
Ooh.
I'm not convinced,
Not so
to be
fast,
honest
my
with
friend.
you. Yeah, I'm again, first game jitters, all that stuff. We saw how they played against a good Packers defense now with Micah Parsons there. So I don't want to completely poo-poo on Jared Goff this week. I just don't listen. I can see the upside. I can see the appeal. But do you see him as a QB1 this week? Right now, as QB 80, his ranking is 18, right? Like you said, is he like where he's gonna knock on the door of top 12?
For me, Fab, like if you're in a 2QB Superflex, like definitely get him in your lineup. I think because this is a home game for the Lions, they're going to be amped up to face Ben Johnson. There was a lot of back and forth, so to speak, between Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs about Ben Johnson going to Chicago, division rival. Ben Johnson has talked a lot of smack in the offseason about, facing the Vikings, facing Matt LaFleur, and I think they're going to want to show up and show out against the Packers. They were 1 of 4 in the red zone last week versus the Packers. That is 70% red zone touchdown conversion in 2024. That doesn't just go away just because Ben Johnson is not there. And I've been skeptical of Jared Goff in the past. I think the fact that he doesn't play well in Green Bay, he historically has not played very well in Green Bay, and their defense is very stout. They added Parsons played like 29 snaps and he wreaked havoc on them.
Yeah.
I just don't see anyone on the Bears right now doing that. But I could be wrong. But I don't think I will in terms of Goff. I think he's gonna show up.
I think look, they're like you said, they're back at home for week 2, and look, they got week 1 out of the way. The jitters, everyone kind of knew it was going to be a rocky start, maybe not to that degree, but I mean, as you alluded, he did complete 31 out of 39 passes. That's that's pretty good.
Yeah.
30 plus completions in a game. So yeah, I definitely agree with your bounce back. Who's the second QB you got this week?
Second QB, favorite of Fab's, CJ Stroud. I quite love CJ Stroud this week. Consensus ranked QB 21 in week 2. Monday night home opener versus the Bucks. If you look at his overarching stats, they looked average, but he was pressured on 41% of dropbacks last week. Like it's not. It seems like the offensive line stuff hasn't improved, but he was 9 of 10 for 102 yards. And he was 6 of 6 versus the blitz versus one of the best fronts in the league in the Rams with Jared Verse and Brandon Fisk. So he faces a Bucks D that was one of the worst last week. And on 43 dropbacks versus Michael Penix Jr. last week, they only pressured MPJ 3 times. And we all know how bad that pass defense was last year. So I also trust Stroud week 2 against the Bucks, home opener. It's the first leg of a Monday night doubleheader. And I think he'll bounce back quite well.
I'm much more on board with this one, especially seeing as like the Rams are legit. I think their defense is real, and Stroud was under duress the entire game last week. So I think he's due for a bounce back game, and I like this matchup this week. So you're 1 for 1 with me with the love.
Look, it's still week 2, right? So it's hard to yes, you are going to have to take some trends from last year in terms of how teams defended. But you have to take in like the overarching things, like how did the QB face against the blitz versus when they were pressured, so on and so forth. But again, I think all the offenses are catching up. I hope to see Nico Collins step up in a big way this week as well.
That makes two of us.
Yeah.
Well, look, I think that like you said, that secondary is not as stout as people thought it was going to be, and I think he definitely will have opportunities at home. Home opener usually always gets you kind of juiced up, right? Especially at the beginning. So,
and the last thing I'll say just about last week, Nick Caley, the new OC for the Texans, he was under McVay's staff. And they faced around, so that's a big aspect in terms of how maybe they were able to stop CJ Stroud last week. QBs I hate, the 2 QBs I hate. So had a great week 1. I'm not going to take it away from him, but I am very skeptical on Daniel Jones this week. Consensus ranked QB 24 in week 2 at home against the very stout Denver Bronco defense. So last week the Broncos pressured Cam Ward on 53% of dropbacks in week 1. The defense generated 6 sacks and held Tennessee to 2.3 yards per play. So yes, I get it. Jones carved up Miami, but they couldn't get any pressure, and I just don't see Denver letting that happen. They're a top 3 unit versus QBs last year, so I would strongly fade, or at least temper my expectations on Daniel Jones in 2QB.
I think it's gonna be a complete 180. He's gonna go from MVP to what are you doing in this league, especially against that Denver. I mean, Denver probably blitzed that much last game because they were playing a rookie,
exactly,
trying to get him, under duress and trying to get him not in a rhythm. He did obviously have a tough game, but yeah, I think this is a pretty easy call, pretty easy fade here. I think he's going to come back down to earth. Let's just put it that way.
Fab, we know how it is with Daniel. Like when he gets pressured,
he did look very good last week, but at the same time, you definitely need to see more of a body of work from him, and a quality body of work for you to be comfortable starting him. And even after you would have seen that body of work and you're comfortable starting him, I still wouldn't start him versus Denver defense.
You got to wait a bit for it.
There's not a lot of quarterbacks that you feel confident about starting versus Denver.
Yeah.
And
their defense is legit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not even to knock Daniel Jones, right? Right now, like, we can't forget how good Denver's defense is. And they're very good.
Totally. And the bookend on my hates for this week, Sam Darnold versus Pittsburgh, consensus ranked QB 29, on the road versus the Steelers, coming out east. So this is basically a morning game for Seattle, traveling to Pittsburgh. I think they're going to establish the run with Kenneth Walker III and Zach Charbonnet. We saw that Pittsburgh gave up 200 yards rushing last week, and the Seahawks had a 50% rush rate last week as well. They did not really let Sam Darnold try to throw the ball. And I still think working through that revamped offensive line, that pass blocking, I think, is still to be decided. But on the run blocking standpoint, they look quite good from a run scheme perspective. So with no Justin Fields level RPO ability, I think the Steelers D should fare much better against Sam Darnold.
I don't have much more to add to that. I'd definitely be reserved from starting him this week as well.
I agree.
Yeah, that's.
I only really had issue with your Jared Goff pick, to be honest with you. But the other 3 so far, hey, if you go 3-1 this week, man, it's a lot better than 2-2.
I need it,
especially dogging your boy Kyle Pitts last week. Like, he heard that disrespect and he said, "No, I'm going to put this on
12.9 points."
Hey, dude, that was more than most, like, of all the other tight ends that played last week.
Actually, the tight ends had a pretty good week last week. I have to say, some good young tight ends.
It's the wrong tight ends had good weeks last week.
They did.
Not the ones that anyone expected to play well.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll do it for our QBs. Fab, why don't you get us started here with a couple running backs that you like this week?
Don't mind if I do. So I'm actually going to stick with the Seattle and Pittsburgh game for my first love, Mr. Zach Charbonnet at Pittsburgh. So further to Roger's point, Breece Hall ripped them up last week, thanks to a heavy dose of zone runs, which also worked well for Zach Charbonnet last week versus San Francisco. So I think you can expect Clint Kubiak to draw up the same sort of results this week as well. I think Zach taking over this backfield is sort of like the worst kept secret. It's sort of been humming all throughout the offseason, and at the very least, it is very much a full blown committee. But at the same time, I think this week he starts to pull away. Right now, he's ranked as RB 30. I see him being a mid range RB2 this week. Just to put things into further perspective, right? So Kenneth Walker had 6 gap runs to 4 zone last week. It was a 9-2 split for Zach Charbonnet. So he runs a lot more zone, which I think will favor him this week versus Pittsburgh defense, which is why if he's in my lineup, if I have Zach Charbonnet, he's definitely in my lineup 100%, because I think he can definitely rip up and have a very, very good week this week.
You convinced me. I have a ton of Zach Charbonnet stock. I think I'm going to.
And I have Kenneth Walker III, and I'm like, all right, got to put him in. I got nobody else. But
someone. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to quickly. So I fully agree on the timeshare. Although the snap share was about 60-40.
60-40
Kenneth Walker
Kenneth
actually
Walker
did outtouch him 13-12.
Yes,
and actually did have some catches in that game. 3 catches for 24 yards. So I think in this scenario, that touchdown kind of saved Charbonnet last week. He had 12 carries for 47 yards, so it doesn't really jump off the page. I think it's going to be a hard backfield to trust as a standalone because you're going to be guessing on who's going to get that touchdown any given week.
And to be completely fair, Clint Kubiak was pretty transparent in saying that he wants to use both of the running backs. And he runs an offense that you can have 2 running backs that will produce fantasy points on a week in, week out basis, just more from a flex perspective versus starting RB2s or RB1s. And I think that's the knock more on Kenneth Walker than Charbonnet, because you had a guy that was being drafted as RB 18 or 17, 16, wherever he was being drafted as. Well, when he's being drafted in the top 20, right, you got to start him every week. But that's not the case for Charbonnet. And I think this week you really see, oh, wow, Charbonnet's more the guy than Kenneth Walker. Just from a matchup perspective, just from the way he plays, just from, the zones versus the gap runs and all that stuff. I think he has a nice game versus Pittsburgh this week. But if we come back to this next week and they both had good games, hey, do I get both?
I hope that they both don't have good games.
Yeah, obviously. Obviously.
It always comes back to the Steelers. It always comes back to the Steelers.
We need at least 4
they were
plugs
playing
an
the Steelers.
episode.
We were talking about it. I mean,
well, we can't talk about the Giants for obvious reasons.
No, I agree with Fab, and I just think I really think it's going to be a run-first offense this year.
For sure.
Defensive coach, I think they want to run first.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot. I think it's going to be a lot more JSN than anything else, and you saw it in week 1 too.
Yeah,
I think I'm just waiting for like another week or 2 before I can drop Cooper Kupp.
Rule number 1: don't overreact to week 1.
I mean, are we really overreacting to dropping Cooper Kupp, who was drafted in the 14th round?
Who's your second running back you like?
TreVeyon Henderson at Miami. So, like, our Miami this year, the Panthers of last year, where like you just start all your players against them because that team is just like completely awful. Like they have no defense. And Guido, if you're listening, I apologize. Like you and I are in the same boat. We're just rowing different oars. You know what I mean? But like, are the Panthers like? That's how I see it. And like, you got to start your starters against them, in my opinion. And New England's O-line was blocking really well versus Las Vegas, and Henderson did show some burst. And there was some chops in his receiving game too. I think he went like 6 for 6. So it's great to see. So I think this is another game where he'll be the better back in the committee. This is probably more of a worst kept secret than the Charbonnet thing. Like they drafted him, so he is going to definitely be the guy at some point. But I also think that this is the first game where he really starts to distance himself. And he's going right now, he's ranked as RB 23 in PPR. As per Fantasy Pros. We love you, Fantasy Pros. If you want to sponsor us, go for it. So I think TreVeyon Henderson definitely is another mid-range RB2. I think he's primed for another good. He's primed for a good game. I think this is an excellent matchup versus a very dysfunctional Miami team.
Ramondre is 38th, man. I think analysts are catching up to that. And he was 7 carries, 15 yards. Man, he had like one really good year, and he's been cooked
had
the past
one
2
Yeah,
years.
he's
really
just
good
he
year,
hasn't been the
man.
same player at all. But you know what? He's more utilized. He did a lot more damage in the passing game.
Yes.
So when you stop passing to him,
Yeah,
he wasn't that effective as a runner all that much. I feel. I think it was, or he may have been that one year, but I'm saying he was really effective catching the football.
I agree. And I was actually surprised when I saw that stat. He doesn't strike me as a effective pass catcher. I always thought of him as like one of those north-south runners. You know what I mean? But yeah, so that stat really jumped out at me when I saw it.
Awesome. And what about some running backs that you don't like this week?
So just everyone just calm down, okay? Ashton Jeanty versus the Chargers. I'm not a fan of this matchup this week. The Chargers defense is really good, and we saw it last week. So Jeanty he finished as RB24 versus New England last week. I know we're not supposed to overreact, and I'm not. He did have very good usage, but there was some not so good O-line play that makes it tough to trust even a highly touted rookie. And the one stat that I really was surprised about. So his yards before contact last week,
Oh, yes, that is.
negative 0.32. He
What?
was getting contact behind the line of
Yeah,
scrimmage.
I listened to a podcast. I heard this too.
Negative 0.32. He was getting met by the opposing defenders before he even made positive yardage. Before he even made like proper negative yardage, I guess.
I think basically he had 44 yards after contact, and he had 38 yards.
Oh
Total.
yeah, and he had 38 total. It's true.
Correct.
I remember
Yeah.
hearing this as
Yeah,
well.
so that doesn't scream to me, oh, he's not a good player. That screams to me this guy is not getting any help from
No.
the whole line. And versus an LA Chargers team that, by all accounts, is going to get after the quarterback. They did that last week, and they have a pretty decent defense. So I wouldn't be super excited about starting Ashton Jeanty. You probably have to because, like everybody else, you drafted him very high. I would just be very skeptical about him this week. Like if he brings you back RB2 numbers, don't be surprised. I think that's more realistic. Also want to preface that the Chargers held Pacheco and Hunt to a combined 9.4 fantasy points last week. I know Pacheco and Hunt are not the same caliber of player as Ashton Jeanty, absolutely, but still something to keep in mind. If you happen to have a plethora of running backs to your disposal and be able to bench Jeanty, go for it. But
Yeah, and I don't think
I
I don't think
understood
there's
the
much
plethora.
benching of Jeanty going to be going on this week.
But my next guy you can probably bench.
But beware.
The problem is we don't actually know if Genty's the caliber of Pacheco in it, and this is my issue with drafting rookies super early.
That's true.
in
It's
running
only
back.
one game
because
yeah.
you have no choice. Genty is ranked as a starter because everyone and their friends just assumed, hey, this guy is quote unquote generational. We have to draft him in the first or second round. Let's wait and see.
Edwards-Helaire. That turned me off from ever drafting a running back with my first round pick or second round pick, rookie running back, just because the odds are he's just not going to live up to that draft pick. And
Yeah, but then you know something. CEH, I don't like using him as an example because that was more of a Mahomes pick, right? And if you want to, every single pick that apparently were Mahomes' picks are not even on the team.
That was really a Mahomes pick?
Apparently, yeah. Mahomes really wanted him from a running back. Same thing with Sky Moore. And where are all those guys now?
he was drafted 32nd. Like, why is he being drafted? Why was he being drafted? He was going 5th overall in pool that year.
He was going 5th overall for the
5 and
offense.
6 is where he was being drafted.
And he's
that's
not
insanity.
He's not Adrian Peterson. I'm
No,
sorry.
he's not. No, but then you look
Adrian
at guys like Zeke. You look at even guys like Leonard Fournette, guys that went super high, and in their rookie years they did very well. So it's even Bijan to a degree. Like it wasn't.
That was Arthur Smith.
It wasn't completely his fault. He had started a very good season considering his usage.
My hands are dry.
Relax on the Arthur
I'll use the other.
I really hope everyone's watching us on YouTube right now.
That's the audible call, right?
Yeah. That's the audible.
Fab, who's another running back you don't like this week?
Tony Pollard or Tony
Pollard,
depending on what side of the fence you're standing on. So Tony Pollard versus the Rams. So he finished as RB34 last week versus Denver. He was a full-blown bell cow, but I think he was more cow than anything else. Rams were all over the Houston O-line, and Chubb wasn't able to get any juice last week, but considering Nick Chubb, I don't want to hold anything against him. So I expect similar challenges for Cam Ward and company week 2. I don't think Tony Pollard has a very good game, and I actually have him on some of my teams, and he's riding my bench this week because I'm not expecting all that much. The Rams defense is very good. We spoke about it earlier. I think Rod, you brought it up during your love hates. I don't have a lot of faith in Tony Pollard this week. Straight up bench.
Fair. And he's not that set it and forget it type back either, right?
He's flirting with, right now he's RB20 in rankings in the PPR. I can see his PPR boosting him into that range, but I also said that last week.
So
and didn't happen.
He's a flex play at best, I guess. Then.
He's a flex play at best, and I think that's going to be a year-long thing. He's going to be a flex play, even with Spears out. Honestly, I feel like when Spears comes back in, his value might even get boosted. I know it's kind of weird to say, but I feel like that running back room operates better when they're both playing at the same time.
I think he operates better in a committee.
Also, that as well. I agree.
Workload.
Fully agree.
He's barely 200 pounds too. Like I regret drafting him in like a league so badly because this is the exact issue I'm having with Pollard. Like, just that team is they have Cam Ward, sure, but I was somewhat bullish on them. And look, it's still early, but I don't know, man. Brian Callahan, he doesn't look like he knows what he's doing. The coaching there is very concerning for me as someone who is a big fan of Cam Ward's talent.
I fully agree, and that's why he's on my hate list this week. Do I have time for honorable mentions? Can I make up ground for last week? Yeah, I got 2 for each, the love and the hates. I'm just gonna shoot out names here where I like their matchups and the ones I don't. So honorable mention for my loves, your boy Roger, the future and past league winner, Mr. J.K. Dobbins. He played very well last week, and this week he's playing at Indy. I like the matchup. I like the usage. I like the burst. I feel like he's been another year removed from all those ACLs and CLs and whatever other else injuries. So I think he's fully healthy. And Javonte Williams versus the Giants. I know their rush D is not great. And Dexter Lawrence seems to still be not fully healthy. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets in the end zone another 2 times this week.
2.
Listen, you got to have it last week, and no one's expecting it. So,
touchdown dependent play.
100%. But hey, he's probably going to get you more points than Ashton Jeanty. Honorable mention for my hates: Jonathan Taylor versus Denver for reasons known because it's Denver. I'm just not a fan. I know you're probably starting him, so just little trepidations. Proceed with caution. And Isaiah Pacheco versus Philly. Unfortunately, I think we're starting to see the downfall of Isaiah Pacheco.
I think Pacheco was a waiver wire.
I think Pacheco is a waiver wire as well. I saw a stat about like his last 9 games PPR points. And like, it is not nice, man. Like, there are no double digits in there. And it's all like 9, 8, 7.4, like really, really weak numbers. And yeah, sucks.
Thanks, Fab. That'll do it for our running backs this week. I will now dive into our wide receivers, or my wide receivers, should I say, that I love and hate. So first one, I have Stefon Diggs at the Miami Dolphins. We are currently seeing a little trend here. Look, they look lost on defense, Miami. They look like they don't have any corners that can actually play in the NFL. And I think McDaniel has completely lost this locker room, and perfect time to take advantage of starting Stefon Diggs. Pittman, who's currently the WR1 with the Colts, scored 20 fantasy points in week 1. And the Dolphins are pretty much becoming that team where I think we mentioned earlier that a lot of players are going to be must starts with them. And I also see a bounce back game coming from Drake May. Didn't look all that great in week 1. So I think he's in a good spot as a get right game. And I think the benefactor of that will be Diggs.
Yeah. Diggs is going to have a solid floor.
Yeah.
Like even just the 12 points that he had, like it wasn't a great game by the Patriots offense, but still for him to just get you 12 points coming out of like a mid-season ACL, I think he's going to get better and better as long as he doesn't get another injury.
Second love this week is going to be Hollywood Brown versus the Eagles. He was definitely a name to look out for on the waiver wire. I think he was claimed I saw it earlier today, 44% of leagues. He was the top claimee in 44% of leagues. And then with Xavier Worthy out after 3 snaps this year, I think Hollywood Brown is going to be the main benefactor of that. And he's doubtful for Sunday and could miss a few games actually. So I think Brown has a huge day, and Philly's secondary looked a little suspect. Besides their stud they have on the outside, I always forget his
Yeah,
name.
Quinyon Mitchell.
Quinyon Mitchell.
Yeah,
Besides him, it looked really, really shaky at best in the opener.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that exact point. Like their secondary, apart from Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, is getting up there in age. Like was it Dory Jackson? I think who's playing corner for them now.
It was Adoree Jackson.
Yeah,
he got beat a few times. DeJean plays in the slot, so they don't really have that guy outside. They got rid of Slay.
Yes.
Although Slay did look a little slow on
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson
on
too is with
Sunday.
the
They also got
Texans.
They also got exactly.
Yeah, their secondary got depleted. Their safeties are still good.
Are we really trusting in the year of our Lord 2025 Marquise Hollywood Brown?
When he's the only one to throw to, yes, I will definitely trust. And like I said, look at what the number one wide receiver on Dallas did last week. You know, like I said, and his game figures to be high scoring again. We've seen it before. These two juggernauts play, and they put up 30 plus points each. So, hey, he had 10 catches for 100 yards. Sign me up.
Roger, you have no say in critiquing Knack after you had Kyle Pitts as a hate last week, as far as I'm concerned.
Why are we on Kyle Pitts Island now these days?
All right.
Are you kidding me?
I love this call. I feel like I was a year too early on the Hollywood Brown love. And I'm just very happy that he's finally getting a shot because people need to put some respect on his name. He's better than advertised. He's a good wide receiver, and he has a very.
They just don't have anyone else, really, right? Like, there's not really much there.
He's a good wide receiver.
So that's fair. That's fair. When if I'll eat my words, when Rashee Rice is back, he's still playing this way. He's not dropping like wide open balls that he's been literally doing his entire career. I will eat my words, but just miss me a little bit on Hollywood Brown being a potentially consistent player. That's all. Just from what I've seen,
that's fine. And you're mentioning Rashee Rice, like maybe I would have Rashee Rice's name here rather than Hollywood Brown if Rashee Rice was there. But there's no Worthy or Rice on the field. And just judging by what the Eagles secondary looked like, I just love this play this week. Mahomes and the Chiefs are 0-1 as well. Do you want to go 0-2?
Must win.
Like,
for sure.
There's motivation here, and I just think it's a great spot if you're starting Hollywood Brown. Move along to my hates this week. First hate is going to be Roger boy, Courtland Sutton at the Colts.
Ooh.
So the Colts in week 1 held Miami's receiving core in check all afternoon. So Tyreek was 4 for 40, Waddle was 3 for 30, and couple that with Bo Nix having a very poor showing in his sophomore season through 2 INTs versus a tough Tennessee D. And things don't really get easier with the Colts' revamped secondary. They really revamped it, and they kind of showed it that they balled out against Miami. Look, Miami played terrible, but I don't know. Not sure Sutton gets to that 18 points he finished with in week 1. I think it could be a rough afternoon.
Knicks did not look good. I know it's 1 week, and yes, we don't want to panic. But like his underlying metrics, I did not like because it was very yak reliant last year. Yards after catch reliant, and he dominated and feasted on some really, really bad defenses. So I want to see it again against better competition this year. So I like that one.
And then my last one here, I always have a spicy one on the menu. I don't know if you guys remember from last year. There's always one of those spicy ones that everyone doesn't really agree with. But I've got Malik Nabers at the Cowboys. So he finished with only 5 receptions on 12 targets for 71 yards in week 1. So
Did the spice go to your head, bud?
I'm a little congested, so maybe it's playing with my mind here. But I think it's more indicative of Russell Wilson being atrocious. That did not help. And there's no indication that Daboll is making any QB change anytime soon, at least not for week 2. And the Cowboys held Philly a top 3 receiving core of A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Jahan Dotson to 7 catches for 86 yards. So, and most of Dotson's yards came on 1 catch, and A.J. Brown's came on the final drive or the final play of the game. So, I think until the Giants turn to Dart or Jameis Winston, I don't know if he's going to be putting up those 20 points and 25-point weeks anytime soon.
The thing with this is that I don't necessarily disagree with the thinking, but he had 12 targets last week. 5 receptions on 12 targets. He might get 18 next week because Russell Wilson literally doesn't know how to scan the field. He literally just throws it to the check down or the number 1 receiver. So Malik Nabers might be the least efficient player this year at wide receiver, but it's very likely that he still ass backwards gets to like 13, 15 points.
Yeah, but he's projected to get 18 to 20 points, right? He's an 18-point, 20-point. Like, you drafted him to be getting 20-point weeks consistently, and a 41% catch rate isn't going to get you there. He could have 18 targets, but you don't get any targets. You don't get any points for targets, right? So, why? What did you just say?
I said I complimented you on the good quick math. You got the 41% of the way, and Fab's like, he has it on the screen.
Oh, I don't have it on the screen. But, I did it on my phone. Yeah, I'm not that quick. That's for sure. But I knew it was considerably low. I just don't like it. I don't like the play. I really don't like. I'm not sure why they signed Russell Wilson. I think I'm as confused as probably you guys are. And then like getting Jameis there and then drafting Dart, it was just like, it just seemed really, really, really strange, especially after the collapse that he had last year, thinking that this guy, because you signed him and you told me he was a starter right away. So to see what happened last year, to bring him in, to think that he was going to lead you to the promised land or at least the playoffs, I think it was just a weird situation.
I don't think the Giants brass ever had any logical or realistic expectation that Russell Wilson was going to lead them to the promised land. Let's not forget now that Russell Wilson was not the first.
I disagree.
Not the first, not the second, not the third. He was the 4th option because they wanted to trade for Matt Stafford when that was a realistic scenario at one point, but that was just hubris or Sean McVay doing whatever he was doing or Stafford doing whatever. It's fine. It doesn't matter. They wanted to sign Aaron Rodgers, and they wanted to trade up for Cam Ward. And they signed Jameis Winston before they signed Russell Wilson. Right? Remember how excited we were about Jameis Winston? I think Russ is
exactly.
There
so what was why would they sign?
Because they needed
Russell
a warm body. That's it.
Fab, they need to make the playoffs.
And they didn't want to throw Dart in right away in the event that he was not going to be ready. I think
they signed Wilson before they drafted Dart.
Yeah, they signed Wilson before. I don't have an issue with them signing Russell Wilson to a $10 million or whatever it is, because I know that he's getting 4 games max because he's just warming up the seat until Dart is ready to
no plan. Offense. There's no plan. And they have to
That's exactly, guys, that is a plan.
It's 2 guys who are on their last, they're basically lame duck GMs and coaches. Like, they need to make the playoffs this year. So I have to disagree with that.
No, they don't need to make the playoffs this year. They need to show sign of life. That's how low the bar is. They cannot expect, like,
sad.
It is 100%. I'm not disagreeing with you. That's the unfortunately realistic reality of what it is to be a Giants fan right now, where it's like, hey, if we push for a wild card spot, cool. Like, okay, we have some gusto. We can do something about it. Great. it sucks, but
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
We
What are you gonna do?
could definitely talk about this in
Yeah,
great
it's
length.
just
Definitely a huge
Malik
huge debate
Nabers
with
had he had 27 targets last year when they played against Dallas, so in two
yeah,
games.
I don't see 27 targets happening. Is he even going to throw for 27 times, Russell Wilson?
That's actually a
Anyways, we
very good
will
point. That's a
proceed.
very good point.
That does it for our wide receivers we love and hate. And quickly, I'm going to turn to you, Raj, first. Who's a tight end you love or hate this week?
I don't. I don't like Dalton Kincaid this week. I don't dislike the player. He's at the Jets, consensus ranked tight end 18 in week 2. Yes, versus Baltimore, he caught 4 of 4 targets, 48 yards. Had that beautiful touchdown catch from Josh Allen last Sunday, that amazing game against Baltimore. But he somehow still played fewer snaps than Dawson Knox. His 49 to Knox's 57. They played in some 2 tight end sets. But even rookie Jackson Hawes played 16 snaps, relegating Kincaid to the bench. So he's competing against 2 other tight ends. It's a very committee-based wide receiver core with Khalil Shakir, Joshua Palmer, Keon Coleman is coming along. And finally, in 8 of 13 games he played last year, Kincaid had under 5 fantasy points in 2024. Really like the talent, always have liked the player. I don't think he's in a great situation, and he's very inconsistent to trust on a week-to-week basis. I'd rather go with someone like Dallas Goedert, who is probably more of a factor and more relied upon by Jalen Hurts.
Well, not this week because I think he's doubtful this week.
Again,
It was an injury, hamstring or something. Something's hampering him. I don't think he's
Oh,
playing
really?
this week.
I didn't even. I know he played last week, but
let's go there.
Yeah, Dallas Goedert.
Brenton
No,
Strange.
but that's okay. Honestly, I agree with you because it's kind of hard to trust anyone in that offense week in week out, like
100%.
set it and forget it style player in Buffalo's offense. So I definitely agree with you there. Fab, anyone that you love or hate this week?
Yeah, but just quick, I'm very excited about Keon Coleman. But yeah, I do agree with everyone's points. Brenton Strange.
Oh, that's what your reaction. I was like, let me try to find.
I was like this. I was
just trying to find an honorable mention quickly.
That's the guy that I like this week. Last week, he caught all 4 of his targets for 30s for some odd. How many yards? Hold on a second. I have it in front of me here. 59 yards. Solid 10 points in a PPR league for a tight end that, you know what, like I feel like last week was a little bit difficult for tight ends. They're playing Cincinnati this week. Last week, Cincinnati gave up a total of 10 receptions for 100 yards to Harold Hannon Jr., and David Njoku. I don't know. I think Strange is a very sneaky tight end streamer this week.
I like Brenton Strange.
Yeah, like we spoke about him at length during the previews and all that stuff. And I know, Nak, you had him on your love list last year as well on a bunch of stuff. So listen, considering, like Kittle is injured, Evan Ingram is injured, apparently Dallas Goedert is injured, Mark Andrews is catching 1 pass for 10 yards or whatever it is. Like you might want to be like, screw it, I'm putting in Brenton Strange in a very plus matchup. So yeah.
I like it. And I'll end with a little honorable mention. I like actually Jonnu Smith at home versus Seahawks. He did get his feet wet. He had 6 targets in week 1, 5 receptions, only 15 yards, but did find the end zone. And Seattle was actually the only team in week 1 to surrender 2 TDs to the tight end position. So I like Jonnu Smith in week 2.
How do you love a Pittsburgh player with a straight face?
I thought you were going to say, how do you live with yourself?
That would have been funnier.
Why are you the way you are?
Why are you?
He's a good play this week, guys.
He is a good play this week. Actually, I put up some fab for him this week. I didn't get him.
As did I.
I beat you both for Jonnu.
You beat me by $1. I put like $4. You put 5 or something. I was like, son of a.
I love fab. It's FAAB, not FAB.
It's okay.
That'll do it, guys, for our love-hate segment going into week 2. I hope you loved the episode. As always, please don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. If you notice, our waivers are now in Canva form on I think on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
Did we post on YouTube?
Yes.
YouTube, on Instagram and TikTok. So you'll always find those on Mondays or Tuesdays. So look at those. Hit us up if you have any questions. We're more than happy to answer any and all your questions. And we will see you guys all next week. Raj, the music. Another one.
From Allegiant Stadium.
Dude, that
Oh, I can't wait.
that Jonnu Smith
On Monday
video
night.
fully sent me. Oh my God.
Dodgers, go.
Fully sent me. I felt like I was looking at Roger and we're just like, this.
What?
Goodbye,
This-
everyone.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.